Good morning, boys and girls. Today we're going to be working on lesson 109. Let's go ahead and touch part 1. Let's see if you remember a meaning for each of those affixes. Touch the letters UN. What's one meaning of un? Not. Touch the letters LESS. What's one meaning of less? Without. Next word. Touch the letters SUB. What's one meaning of sub? Under. Touch the letters NESS. What's one meaning of ness? The state of being something. Touch the letters PRE. What's one meaning of pre? Before. Touch the letters ABLE. What's one meaning of able? Able to be. Touch the letters LY. What's one meaning of Lee? Get ready. How something happened. Let's go ahead and look at part 2. First word. What is the underlined part? What word? Furthermore. Next word. What is the underlined part? Less. What word? Motionless. Next word. What is the underlined part? X. What word? Executives. Next word. What is the underlined part? What word? Disguised. Now look at part 3. First word. What word? Survival. Next word. What word? Easily. Next word. What word? Exact. Next word. What word? Concerned. Next word. What word? Production. Next word. What word? Instead. Next word. What word? Convert. Next word. What word? Months. Next word. What word? Situation. Next word. What word? Convention. Next word. What word? Guarantee. Next word. What word? Camigo. Next word. What word? Estimate. Next word. What word? Heartily. Next word. What word? Schedule. Next word. What word? Broadcast. Let's go ahead and look at part 4. We're going to talk about what those words mean. Word number 1. What word? Launch. When you launch something, you started. Word number 2. What word? Translate. When you translate, you change something from one language to another language. Word number 3. What word? Facilities. Facilities are things built to be used for a special purpose. Hospital facilities are places to be used as hospitals. Number 4. What word? Associates. Associates are people who work together. Number 5. What word? Profit. Profit is money left after all expenses have been paid. Number 6. What word? Colleagues. Colleagues are associates. Number 7. What word? Thorough. When you behave and you do something thorough, you do something in a careful and accurate manner. Number 8. What word? Devote. When you devote yourself to something, you give a lot of your attention. Now let's go ahead and begin with part 5. We're going to begin with our story. Make sure we're paying close attention, listening to the questions that I'll be asking because you're going to see them in your workbook. 2 months after the car campaign had been launched, 6 executives from the Nyota factory in Japan came to the advertising agency. Only one of them could speak English very well. Joe and 4 people from the advertising agency met with the 6 Nyota executives. During the meeting, the one who could speak English talked to Joe and the others. She then translated what was said to her What was said to the other Nyota executives, who would shake their heads either up and down or from side to side? "We're concerned," the English-speaking executive said, "because we do not have facilities to produce export for more than 500,000 cars each year. Already we are at full production, and already the orders from your country are greater than we can fill." Let's listen to question number 1. Why did one Nyota executive translate for the other Nyota executives? One of the executives from Nyota translated because only one of them spoke English well. Now let's go ahead and continue reading. "That's kind of a nice problem to have," the president of the agency said and laughed heartily. Several other members of the agency laughed too. Joe didn't laugh. He said, "I took one of the Nyotas apart and I found out that it's almost an exact copy of a Miata model that was built in 1970. "You say we copied Miata?" the Japanese executive said. She quickly translated Joe's comment to the other executives, after which they shook their heads from side to side and said, "No, no, no," the president said. "Joe, what are you trying to do? We're not here to insult Mrs. Ogura and her associates. That's not the point. The point is that Nyota could contract with Miata to build more cars." Question number 2. Why had Joe compared the Nyota with the Miata? Joe compared the Nyota with the Miata because he wanted to find an additional manufacturer for the car. Let's continue reading. "I've looked into the situation and I've talked to the executives at Miata. According to them, they can convert part of the Camigo plant into making cars within only 3 months. Furthermore, there are currently enough Nyotas around to fill all orders between now and then. There are nearly 30,000 of them in France, where they are not selling well. We could easily pick up 20,000 and have them shipped here within a month. With the other shipments that are scheduled, we should have enough cars to last us until the Miata plant starts producing." Question number 3. How was Joe proposing they solve the production problem for Nyota? Joe proposed to have the Miata manufacturer produce cars. Now let's continue reading. Ms. Ogura was busy translating to the other Nyota executives. 2 were nodding their heads up and down. Ms. Ogura then smiled broadly and turned to Joe. "You are very thorough. However, we must know what it will cost for us to have Nyota produced by Miata." Joe said, "You will make a profit of about 5%, which is less than you make on the cars you produce, but you will have no expense in the production of these cars. Miata will pay for setting up and producing cars if you give them a guarantee that you will take 100,000 cars." Ms. Ogura's eyes became very large. "Oh," she said. "Oh, that's many cars, she translated for her colleagues. 4 shook their heads from side to side. "Too many cars," Ms. Ogura said. "What happens if we can sell all cars produced by Miata?" The head of the marketing department for the advertising agency said, "Maybe I can help. I have done some figuring. Based on the sales that we have made since the beginning of the campaign, I would estimate that nearly 500,000 cars will be sold in this country during this year. That means that we will need more than 100,000 cars from Miata this year alone." Question number 4. How many cars would Miata produce? Miata would produce 100,000 cars. Now, how many cars did the marketing executive estimate would be sold that year? Their estimate about the number of cars would be sold that year is nearly 500,000. A quick translation from Ms. Ogura to the other executives, and their heads began to nod up and down. Ms. Ogura smiled. Very thorough, she said. Joe had known from the beginning that he was a super salesperson, but now he felt that the Nyota situation was getting a little out of hand. It was becoming too crazy. Imagine Miata producing Nyotas that were to be sent here and called cars. Imagine all the other major manufacturers in the country battling a second-rate import for survival. Imagine hundreds of pages of print and newspaper and hours of broadcast time devoted to news on the car situation. And imagine the amount of money Joe would make if 500,000 cars were sold. He would make $50 million. During the meeting, Joe found himself thinking, this is just too much. Why did Joe think the situation was getting out of hand? Joe thought that the situation was getting out of hand because other major car dealers were battling a second-rate import for survival. When you're done, boys and girls, make sure you complete lesson 109. Have a great day.